You know, this last year, at the end of 2014, I was asked to rejoin the National Venture Capital Association. That's a first for a former chairman. And I was asked for a specific reason, and I accepted for this specific reason, which is to co-chair something called the Diversity Task Force. It's something I'm passionate about. I'm at the stage of my career that I not only want to do well myself, not only do I want to have a firm that's diverse, and we do, and we're really proud of that. Not only do I want to mentor quietly other women and people of color to be successful, I actually want to speak publicly about it as an individual. And what was great is to find a board, and frankly, I'm finding a community of venture capitalists that understand this is not just good, but it's smart. We all are in a talent war. We need the best people we can get. Science has proven in various studies that more diverse groups make better decisions when solving problems, and that's what we do every day. What's interesting is I went back to the board and said, I'd like to increase the size of the Diversity Task Force to include 2 people of color, 1 to 2, preferably 2. They responded. First slow, I was worried about the initial pause, and they came back and said, not, and I didn't like that word, and they finished it by saying, unless they were also on the board itself. And I love the idea that their view, rightly so, was if we wanted more diversity on the task force, which is meant to address this topic, we need to walk the walk and talk the talk by bringing those people onto the board itself. I'll give you an example of the kinds of things that we think could be helpful in addition to recruiting sites and tools. I look at things like He for She. I encourage people to look at that. Emma Watson's effort of helping men think about how to work with women and talk about it in kind of a handbook almost. Some firms don't have any, so it would be good, or very few. It would be good for people to get insight. The other I happen to like, because it is, a lot of folks can relate to it, is the Rooney Rule. I didn't know what the Rooney Rule was. Not enough of a football fan. I know a lot about it now. 15 years ago, a requirement in the NFL to, if you have an open position in leadership and in coaching, to interview someone of color. Of course, they're great black players. It would be likely there would be great black coaches. And in fact, when that became a requirement that at least the best person of color should be included in an interview process, what happened? They found there were great people. There were people that deserved to have the jobs and ultimately became great coaches and managers. So we'd look forward to employing things like that to be effective across the organization, across the ecosystem as best practices. And by the way, this doesn't stop at the venture firms. It includes our entrepreneurs who are desperate for some of these kinds of resources and advice. So we look forward to moving the dial for all of us. One of the things early on in my career as I thought about really proceeding forward, I never actually envisioned necessarily being in venture. One thing I early on figured out, and I wish I had more consciously understood it, was often the best opportunities for me as a woman was going to a place that had more challenges. I could distinguish myself. If I was following in the footsteps of 10 other successful people, being it men or women, you know, it was something that was already formed. It was something that was already there. That I was going to be more successful if I took a little risk and I went into something that was either brand new, like online banking when I did that in the early 90s, or something that was broken. I sold a lot of distressed real estate in the commercial real estate and assets in the late 1980s. And then going into venture, which was considered kind of a small outpost within a large financial institution day one. Being willing to take risks and not take a more traditional path turned out to be really effective to me. I wish I was more conscious about knowing how valuable that would be going forward. As a woman, I don't think myself, I'll speak at least for my 4 sisters as well, that was something that we took to. We wanted to be safe and do a good job at what we did and move forward. As I've gotten older, I'm understanding the value as a woman of taking risks, and that's really paid off in my career. I think women that are attracted to venture and entrepreneurship probably at a gut level understand that. I think if they more consciously embrace it, I think it'll be even more powerful for them. It's okay to iterate and skin your knees on your way to success. When I became chairman of the NVCA, I was the 3rd female chair, and well, it's I think been 45 years, and so you know, not very many women, and I think there hadn't been any for 15 some odd years. I actually saw it as a responsibility. I was worried about, of course, failing, because women tend to, that imposter syndrome, as an individual. But I was worried about failing on behalf of my partners at Scale Venture Partners, and I was worried about failing on behalf of all women. I worked so hard. I said to my husband at the beginning of that year, if absence makes the heart grow fonder, you're going to be very fond of me when this is over. And I really made it, the Jobs Act, the registered investment advisor, having venture be considered differently under that profile, et cetera. Avoiding carried interest for a period of time, promoting things like immigration. I was thrilled to have that level of success, and I was thrilled when I stepped down to see the two white men who followed me, as I was so busy putting my head down trying to succeed, point out the fact that it was done by a woman. So it was really nice. But I will say I relate to that tension around having that extra pressure. I did feel like I was there representing a large group of people, but it also propelled me to succeed. So maybe that's part of the success.